Welcome to the Global Connection, a Tel Aviv University podcast. Journey with us as we discover how TAU's academic community and friends are engaging with and helping to shape this ever-changing world. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Global Connection. I'm your host, Dr. Anna Sajecki, and today I am honored to be speaking with two graduate students in the International LL.M program at Tel Aviv University, who also happen to be fellows through TAU's Erwin Kotler Institute for Democracy, Human Rights, and Justice. So we have Nurgul Gokpinar, who is an attorney from Turkey, who has been a member of the Istanbul Bar since 2019. And we also have joining from Nigeria, Olivia Mbonu, who is a lawyer there with a focus on commercial law. And from what I understand, both of you are focused right now in your studies on information technology, AI, IP, privacy, and Olivia specifically technology and finance. So welcome to you both. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here too.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. So, as I've mentioned to you, and as you know, the podcast is called The Global Connection. And so I love speaking with international students. And Nurgul, you're from Turkey. Olivia, you're from Nigeria. So I'd love to open with a question just about something you'd like to share about the country you're from that maybe our listeners don't know that much about.
Okay, so I'll go first. So Nigeria is the most populous Black nation in the world, and it's a very diverse country. We have over 500 languages spoken, but our official language is English. That's the official, but we have other languages. We have well over 200 different tribes in Nigeria with 3 major tribes, and we have the best food in the world, popularly Nigerian jollof rice.
I'm getting hungry. Okay, thank you. And Nurgul.
So I think it's also food because in every region in Turkey, like we have different kind of food, and I think it's beautiful. And also we have 4 seasons, and sometimes I say to Israelis like, you can ski in Turkey. Like we have many ski resorts in Turkey, and they get surprised because they think like we don't have snow, and I think, yeah.
Right. 4 seasons. You can put on some skis. You can swim in the Mediterranean if you want. Lots of options. All right. So let's get back to the countries that you're from. I'd love to hear a little bit about your own journey there into law. So if you could talk about that. Why did you become interested in law, and how did you get into law?
I think, like for me, I think I ask a lot of questions and I talk a lot. And when I was young, people said, "Oh, you talk a lot. You ask too many questions. Just go study law." So you always be in court, always talking in court, and always asking questions in court. And from when I was young, that was like the only profession I was interested in. I'm just going to be a lawyer since I'm talkative. But funny story, I've never been to the courtroom since like I got called to bar in 2019, because eventually when I did study law, I got more interested in, the financial part of law, the corporate commercial transactions, helping businesses raise money, regulatory compliance, avoid trouble with the government and stuff. So that's basically why I studied law.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine you probably ask some pretty good questions in that realm of law.
In university, I did a lot of moot and mock trial, and I was always in like the litigation department of my university faculty. So everybody thought like once I graduate, I'm going to go straight into litigation, and I thought so as well. But when I got my first employment, they were like, "Oh, this is a corporate commercial law firm. We're not going to put in the litigation department. You don't have a choice." So I didn't have a choice when I started, although I really wanted litigation. But after a while, the whole thing just died down, and then there was a new interest. Yeah.
Are you liking commercial law?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Okay. That's very helpful.
That's very helpful.
Definitely. And you, Nurgul.
So when I was a child, I was thinking I was probably going to be, an engineer or an architect, because all my family, they're engineers or doing something about science, and I'm the only lawyer in the family. So I thought like I don't know. I think I was fascinated by the idea that defending other people's rights and just defending human rights, and basically that's why I wanted to be a lawyer. And I thought like, oh, lawyers are so cool, and like I should do this.
Okay. So here you are, two cool people. Then you've officially become lawyers. I do want to, in a moment, talk about the studying law here in Israel. But before that, it's a small question, but I think it's kind of a big question. I'd love to hear, in Turkey, in Nigeria right now, what do you think is the most pressing legal issue that people are talking about?
Okay, so want me to go first? So I think right now the most pressing legal issue, we just had an election not so long ago, I think February. And so there's an election petition in court.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and the new government has been sworn in, but depending on how the election goes, this administration might continue, or it might be the start of a completely new administration. So I think for now, that is the most interesting thing going on.
Okay.
The election petition, because, it affects the whole country.
Okay.
But lately, there's been a lot of tech, just like the whole world. Yeah, startup financing, AI, everybody wants to get on the tech buzz in every area. So, yeah.
Okay. And Nurgul, it might not be the same thing, but I know Erdogan was recently reelected too. So would you say it's related to that or something different? Or
So I think like in every country in Europe and also in Israel, like with the improvements in tech and AI, I think also the issues like freedom of speech and how to balance things like freedom of speech, hate speech, and like this kind of stuff. Privacy is also pressing issues in Turkey right now, I think.
Okay. It's a global issue in many ways, isn't it? And was that what drew you to TAU to do your LL.M here? Was it really sort of the technology aspect and thinking about technology and rights, or what brought you to Tel Aviv University?
Funny story. I responded to a LinkedIn ad. That was how I just saw a post if you're interested in. I was pursuing my postgraduate studies at the time, and I just saw a post if you're interested in an LL.M in Israel. Just respond to this ad. And I said, Israel, who goes to Israel to study? Because in Nigeria, Israel is not like a very popular study abroad destination. So Nigeria, if you want to study abroad, you either go to UK, US, or Canada. That's like, the way it is. And I was like, and I was just very tired of, I was considering the UK, but a lot of my friends were running into each other in the public bus. I said, I don't want to be where everybody is. So I said, okay, let me consider Israel. And then I started researching like on the country, on the school especially. And I was like, oh, this school, tech school, largest Jewish university in the world, startup nation. I was like, oh, don't mind if I do. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So an ad for the startup nation.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. And Nurgul.
So to be honest, Israel in the beginning wasn't also my list, but I was also looking for a program in the UK or the US and some countries in Europe. So I was talking to my dad about it. I was saying like I started kind of applying for the LL.M programs, and he said like, oh, why don't you consider Israel? I heard like the level of education is so good in Israel, and like they're like respected professors, and I thought, okay, I will check. And then I checked the website of the of Tel Aviv University, and also check look at videos of Tel Aviv, and I really like the program, and the professors are really good here. So, and also Tel Aviv is like a really nice city to do an LL.M. I really love the city.
Okay. So you did a bit more research and you're like, that's what I want to do. So you heard that level of education is good here. You're nearly done the program now. Yeah. So you feel like what you heard lines up with your experience, what the courses you've been taking, what you've been learning?
I feel like for me, if I'm being 100% honest, it like exceeded my expectation, because coming here, I didn't know anybody who had studied in Israel before. And I remember I couldn't tell a lot of people back home that I was coming to study in Israel, because like Israel is like a religious destination for us more than, and coming here, I really love the program. It's worth it 100. I love the way the professors teach, and you can always tell the professors are super smart when they teach. It's that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think it's really nice that we have both practical courses and both courses which focus on like more academic side of the studies. So I really like it because I'm right now but considering doing a PhD and at the same time maybe or after like continue work as a lawyer. So it's super nice. Like I had like courses for these two options, and also I took a class from the MBA program, also two classes, and it was super nice. Like when one was venture capital and entrepreneur finance, and I really like the looking at the experiencing the business side of the transactions and like how things work. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit, so the business side of things, especially the technology side of things, as someone who isn't in law, there's so much happening with technology these days. So I can imagine it's a really, really complex issue within law.
Yeah.
So what are some of the big things we have to look out for and consider, say in relation to digital rights or AI? What's on your mind when it comes to technology and law?
That's a big question. but I would say like one thing about technology is like there's always this buzz, and sometimes someone I read a post saying like, oh, we're in the AI bubble now, and every bubble will burst, because after there's this big noise, this, and then after a while, everybody just calms down, and then something else will come, and then something else will take the whole world by storm, and then we'll start hearing, oh, this is going to revolutionize the way we do everything, and it just calms down. I think like what is most important in the intersection of law and technology is like regulation, like when to regulate, how to regulate, who should be liable, things like that. I think like regulation is one, like when it comes to AI, this is a question everybody's asking. And a few years ago, it was blockchain and cryptocurrency. And a few years ago, it was social media and the impact of, sharing of information, privacy, data. So all these things is I think the most important question in the intersection of AI, technology generally, and technology and law is regulation, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. Regulation. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And also my research right now, I'm focused on that. When is the right time to regulate a new technological advancement? So I think like how to regulate and when to regulate is a really important question. So yeah.
Okay.
Because like there's an ongoing race between regulation and technology, and usually regulation
is slower, always slower.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe like regulating a new technology with different like maybe soft laws, and maybe we can find a balance to have to like, even if it's not on the exact like needed time.
Okay. Now, you both have a bit of a unique perspective in which you understand a legal system from a different country, and then you've come here, and I'm assuming you're engaging a fair bit with Israeli law and the legal system here. So when it comes to thinking about regulation in terms of technology, how much of this is like a universal conversation where it doesn't really matter so much what country you're looking at, and how much of it is like you need to specifically look at the country, the laws in the country, and think about regulations within a national context?
Yeah. I think like when it comes to like regulation of advanced technology, I think one trend I've noticed is that most countries are moving to favor technology over keeping like the status quo. For example, like AI, it's like the big buzz now, AI this, AI that, and AI is also, I don't want to use the word infringing, but it's disrupting some very established, areas of law that is established. And one thing we see that when issues go to court, the court doesn't want to say, what, AI, don't do that. We're going to clamp down on AI. Because like, oh no, you will be the one to shift for AI because it's just like the race to the moon. I don't want to compare it to something as big as the race to the moon. But, if at the time when the race to the moon was really big, there were other existing laws or other existing other existing systems, that the race to the moon was trumping on. Like, oh, we're more interested in the race to the moon than this because this can change the way the whole world, interacts and stuff. So I think that's one thing. Specifically, when it comes to like regulation, I think when it comes to technology, it's really depending on country by country. It's very hard to say, okay, this is like a worldwide regulation. I mean, the EU is just like the exception to the rule because the EU likes to do things, harmoniously, but mostly it's country by country. But what we can see is like, even though regulations differ, we can see a common trend where countries are moving to favor the advancement of technology over keeping the status quo.
Okay. So there are some overall trends that you see happening across countries, but then it's really being considered country by country in terms of the types of regulations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Only the exception is probably the EU, because like we saw it as with general data privacy law, the regulation. There's like the Brussels effect. Like even if it was regulates the EU and the member states. Even in Turkey, because they have to comply with the companies who are like dealing with doing business transactions with member states or like.
Okay. So you mentioned the Brussels effect. I have no idea what that means.
This is basically that.
That's what it is. Okay.
They have to comply with the law, with the GDPR, and they have to. So.
Okay. So as you've been here studying Israeli law, for you, are there, again, coming from a different context, are there parts of Israeli law that you find really fascinating or surprising? And you're like, oh, that works completely differently from...
Well, I don't know, because do you want to... Well, we're in the international program, first of all.
Okay.
We're in the international program, so our program is not like focused on the Israeli law, as it were.
Okay.
We're more focused on the general rule, what is applicable generally. And so I think most of the times we just do like a comparative analysis with Israeli law. And
maybe family law. Family law is so different. Yeah.
Well, family law is extremely different. I feel like generally Israel is a very different society, not just like regulations, but the way, I don't want to say the way you do your things, but, the way the Israelis do their things, it's not just the law, it's the whole way of life. I think I still find the Sabbath very interesting. Every Saturday I forget it's the Sabbath and I want to go somewhere. Like,
right.
I can't go.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not just the law, it's the whole society, as it were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you feel like there's a pretty close connection in general, whatever country you're in, between the society and the legal system? Like, does the legal system tend to reflect pretty closely the society?
Okay.
I'm asking you big questions here.
Yeah. Nurgul, do you want to go?
I can try. So if I say some things about the Israeli legal system, I think the thing, like the aspect is different. Israeli legal system is a combination of civil and common law.
Yeah.
So it was pretty different to read about it, because I'm coming from a civil law country and you're coming from a common law country, and we see the combination of both laws in Israel.
Yeah. I think
interesting.
When it comes to like the law reflecting society, I feel like every country has that, but I just feel like Israel is like, boom, just like, just like next level.
Leveled up.
Because Nigeria geographically is a common law country, but it's divided into, I don't want to say divided because it's not official, but there's just this psychological divide of northern Nigeria and southern Nigeria. So northern Nigeria is very Islamic dominated, like there's a lot of Muslim things, and southern Nigeria is a combination of both. And Christianity is dominant in southern Nigeria and a lot of more liberal Muslims than, So in northern Nigeria, although Nigeria is a common law country, in northern Nigeria, we have Sharia law. We have a Sharia criminal system for a few petty offenses. We have the Sharia family law. We have the Muslim, just to, respect them. And in southern Nigeria, everything we have is civil, common law. So I feel like that's one way that, there's a little bit of divide. But generally, Nigeria is common law, but Israel is common law. Sometimes it's civil law, and sometimes it's even Jewish law, the law of the halakha. And I find that very interesting. I tell people I'm Jewish by halakha. I'm a sociological Jew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finding the shared connection then.
Yeah, I just want to be Jewish by force.
Right.
And it is interesting that there are still some laws like the land law from Ottoman Empire times, like the Ottoman law. It's so interesting.
And it's also very strange that Israel does not have a constitution. It's very interesting. I found it very interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. A big conversation these days, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like coming from North America, so Canadian Constitution is a whole different context, but the American Constitution, right?
Yeah.
That's such a big conversation where it felt like it was created so long ago that there's so many blockages to try and change it now. And so do you have examples of modern day constitutions that have been created?
No.
No.
I feel like every constitution, like off the top of my head, no. Because I feel like every constitution is like an ancient instrument. But any conversation surrounding constitution is going to be very technical, very tough to have. Because Nigeria, we've tried to amend our constitution so many times. And I told you, because we are very diverse, we're very different people, the conversation, always goes to sometimes a stalemate. And then they were like, we're going to amend, we're going to have this committee look into the constitution. They bring their recommendations, but they can't adopt it. So because it's very hard, like I'm just saying generally, to bring like a very large group of people, a very different group of people in every country under one book. And everybody's trying to have his own rights, and everybody's trying to have his own duty, his own religion, his own perspective on life. So I feel like because Israel is very diverse, I mean, it's a nation state, but it's a very interesting kind of nation state. It's going to be like definitely one of the hardest conversations you guys can have.
Right.
Like the Israelis can have, yeah.
To try and get everybody to agree on one thing.
on one thing. No, it's very hard.
Yeah. But you bring up an interesting, like I love hearing about the Constitution in Nigeria. And so for both of you, do you feel like you bring some unique perspectives and backgrounds to the studies that you're doing here right now? Like in conversations with Israeli lawyers, or there's probably other international students in your program?
Yeah, sure. I mostly did commercial law and corporate law in Turkey. So the basic things like pretty much the same, how we like draft agreements and how we interpret them and negotiate them. So I think my previous background like in commercial law and experience working as a lawyer helped me to present also my perspective on cases and
Yeah, I feel like it's just normal when you bring like so many international students together. Perspectives are always different, especially this comes to play a lot in this course, contemporary issues in Israel. And there's just a funny way we sit in class that it just seems like we represent the far left to the far right, because there's this classmate, Reeve, Riv is very liberal, and there is Oli that sits at the other end of the class that is very extremely conservative, and Liv is extremely liberal. And so
Right.
it just seems like the conversation just flows from the way we sit in class, just flows from liberal to conservative every time. And
Back and
like,
forth.
yeah, and we've been sitting like that since when we got here. And then we just got to know, like, in contemporary issues in law, people on the left actually have a more conservative view on issues than people on the right. So it's just like, okay. And I'm always sitting very close to the left or sometimes in the middle, depending on, the conversation.
Yeah. That's such an interesting. So it's the political sort of beliefs of individuals, and then so you mentioned there are a lot of people from around the world in the program.
Yeah.
So how many countries would you say are represented too in the program?
So
Germany
especially, Russia, Ukraine, Nigeria, Turkey, America. Is that
Canada.
all? Canada, yeah.
Okay.
So 7 countries.
Okay. All right. So do you think, are you planning on global peace and human rights? And how's that going?
Well, the whole concept of global peace and human rights, Nurgul and I, we get it from the Irene Coulter program, which has been very instrumental in understanding the Israeli society and understanding, the interplay of countries. And I mean, we might be planning, but it's a lot of work. Sometimes I'm like, are we really, really going to have world peace? It's a lot of work. It is.
Lesson number 1, world peace is going to take a little bit more work.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit more. Because, I mean, it's just in a conversation where you want to unify people, it's very important, like, when you want to say, okay, let's have like a unifying voice. There's just a threshold. Okay, so is it your opinion that will be the unifying voice, or is it my opinion that will be the unifying voice? And why should your opinion be what we all agree with? Why shouldn't we agree? And in the world of like 100 billion people, whatever, with 10,000 religions and 10,000 different societies, it's going to be hard.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure about the word peace, but I think like we can start establishing peace by just like having dialogue, like improving it. So
Well, dialogue is very, very important. And honestly, that's part of why I love doing what I'm doing right now, is opening up those dialogues. And I want to thank you both for taking the time to speak with me, and good luck with finishing the program. I know you both have bright careers, which you started, but ahead of you too. So
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is my dream,